his clothes because we don't have an iron board that we could use outside of the room. We don't have a room to iron it either. So should probably invest in an ironing board so he doesn't have to use this for all the time. But anyways, let's see. Let's continue. We stopped at chapter 17. And actually these chapters are so short, like I could literally finish, I feel like I could finish it in one day, but still a lot, to be honest. Let's see. Maybe we started at chapter 12, huh? So we finished. Where did we stop? Yeah. So we did stop at chapter 11, huh? And then I finished 6 chapters. That's crazy. Okay. Are we still friends? I held my breath. She shrugged. I guess so. It made my heart cramp. Then she changed the subject. You're not dressed. I know. I glanced at the kitchen clock. Do you want to come to my room? She shook her head. I'll clear off the table while you get dressed. Daddy told me to be useful. I didn't ask Mama to make you help, I said. But she didn't comment on that. I'll meet you downstairs, Declaration said. She picked up my plate and glass and walked them to the kitchen sink. I felt like a balloon that had just been popped. I listened to my flip-flops flap against my heels as I walked to my closet, where I listened to the rain falling while I got dressed. Chapter 17. So after that interaction, it's like, how are you gonna be friends again after that? I feel like when something happens, and this is why I'm scared of, like, marriage and stuff, but when something happens, you know, big like that, it's like, okay, my respect for you has lost. It will never get better again. Even if you try to be better, I'll never forget that. Even if I do forget that, I won't, be convinced that you're incapable of hurting me. And, yeah. Chapter 17. I felt low going down the back stairs, until I ran into Daddy coming up the back stairs to get me so I could see Great-Great-Aunt Florentine before he opened the doors to the Serenity Suite. Aunt Goldie had her time with Aunt Florentine early that morning, so here was my chance to say goodbye after all. This man greeted me as I arrived, and I hugged him. He was wearing a wreath of lavender that Mama had woven through his collar. Mama, Daddy, Tidings, Mary, and I stood at the open casket one last time, staring at the glory that had been Great-Great-Aunt Florentine. "You look so natural, Bunch," said Mama. Tidings poked me in the side. I poked him back. Hi, hello. Hello, Callie and JC Glud and Avrian Plagues Roblox LOL. Welcome to the stream. And it's okay to hate me. It's a natural feeling. Hate is something that is not something we decide to do. It's just something that we feel. And it's our choice whether we decide to act upon it or not. And you did. So that part is bad. We'll subscribe to you since you're nice. Thank you, JC. You're nice. Alright, Daddy put his arms around all of us. It's just us now, rattling around in this big old place. We'll do fine, said Mama. Your flowers, Joy, said Daddy. You outdid yourself. I think I did at that, said Mama, delighted. Flowers were crammed into every available space behind the casket, on the casket, around the casket. The room smelled like a lavender heaven. There sure are lots of them, I said. It'll make troop movement difficult, said Tidings. We'll manage, said Daddy. There'll be plenty of room in the parlors and folks can mingle. You don't suppose this rain will keep folks away? Mama moved towards the chairs with Mary in her arms. I think we'll have a full house, said Daddy, following her. In fact, I think the rain is letting up. Your voice is really amazing, Holy. Thank you, oh my corn muffins. Welcome to the stream. How's it going? I'm gonna do a stream in a little bit. Do you want to watch? Sure. I'll have it on standby because I have a laptop here. I mean, I can watch a little bit, but yeah, I have to finish this book, or trying to. I don't know if I already read like 6 chapters, so we'll keep going. I think, okay. Mama and Daddy sat down on the front row of chairs and put Mary between them. It looked so strange, because Daddy never sat during a funeral. He was always on his feet helping, serving. Tidings and I were left looking at Aunt Florentine for the last time. It's just gonna be in like 30 minutes. Okay, sounds good, JC. She looks so said Tidings. Don't say it, I said. Tidings put his arms around my shoulder, and I leaned my head on him. I'd seen people do this 1,000 times, and now I knew why. It felt good. She was a lot of fun, said Tidings. I nodded my head. She said you were going to end up the big general of the whole shebang. She was right. I blew a kiss to great Aunt Florentine. I knew she wasn't in that shell, and yet, at that moment, I felt like she kissed me back. It was all I wanted. It's time, said Daddy. He stood up and looked at his watch. Are we ready? Ready, said Mary. Daddy kissed her. Here we go. You have a great voice. Thank you, JC Glenn. How's your day, by the way? And if anyone else is watching, how's your days going? A magnificent spray of white carnations, red roses, lavender, and baby's breath blanketed the length of great-great-aunt Florentine's closed casket. Their serenity suite began to fill with our damp friends and neighbors, our Snapfinger family. Declaration stood by the door with Mr. Johnson, being useful. I left her alone. Folks streamed into the serenity suite like water. Good, good. If you're good, I'm good. Eddying around rocks, trickling their way up to the casket, swelling around the family, shaking hands, hugging, laughing, crying, and gurgling out the doors like to join other mourners in the parlors and the hallway. Everyone talking in low, loving, Tad-like tones. Some folks cried. If a box of Kleenex wasn't handy, I'd give them a Snowburger's handkerchief. I tucked a handkerchief into one of the big pockets of my funeral dress, just in case I needed it later. Oh boy. Okay. What happened to the other stream? Oh yeah, welcome back to Jim Queen. So my dad came and he was like, he needed the room for a little bit, so I just ended the stream. But yeah, I'm just gonna continue streaming until we reach 8 o'clock. Maybe 7 p.m. We'll see. I'm gonna stream forever today. I should probably stop when my voice gets tired though, because I'm fasting, so I need some water. I mean, my throat is always feeling dry, but it's fine. Okay. I had managed to forget about Peach until he made his entrance. He processed down the grand front staircase, clinging to Aunt Goldie. He was stiff and straight and white. He wore a sky blue suit and a red tie with polka dots all over it. He stared at a space in front of him, looking at no one and nothing. Like the Red Sea parting for Moses, the crowd at the bottom of the stairs, the same crowd that had watched Peach make a mess of Uncle Edisto's funeral, parted to make a pathway for Peach. Mrs. Powell started playing A Mighty Fortress is Our God. So, like a wave closing in behind Peach, we all flowed after him, ready to celebrate the life that had been Florentine Snowburgers. Dismay stood at the doorway to the Serenity Suite, panting and letting himself be patted. Peach paused at the doorway to hug Dismay ferociously. Then he sneezed. Dismay shook himself and wagged his tail. I had to sit in the front row with the family. I am usually a back row sitter. From the back row, I can see best and take notes. Daddy had asked Mr. Johnson and Declaration to sit with us too. As we got settled to the tune of Nearer My God to Thee, I found myself sitting next to Declaration. I could feel anger rolling off of her and onto me. I scooted a little closer to Aunt Goldie, who sat on my left. Peach sat on the other side of Aunt Goldie. He had buried his face in her purple armpit. He began a low moan, so Aunt Goldie began humming to the organ's Abide With Me. She nudged me with her elbow, but I didn't hum along. Mama did. Mary, who was sitting on Mama's lap, started humming Jingle Bells. Shh, said Daddy. Yeah, I get it, JC. Great-great-aunt Florentine lay in front of us all, waiting, it seemed to me, for us to tenderly and truly send her to Gloryland. I felt she could hear us. I was certain of it. Maybe she could even hear our thoughts. I love you, I thought, towards this casket. Shut up, I thought, towards Peach. At Uncle Edisto's funeral, Peach had sobbed so much Aunt Goldie had to take him out of the room as he gagged on his tears. Dearly beloved, said Preacher Powell in his rich Sunday morning voice. Everybody got still. Uncle Edisto always said, every ending is a new beginning. He began. Alright, chapter 18. You know what? Let's try to reach chapter 20 today. Or chapter 21. I'm gonna go up till 158. So, chapter 18. We are here to celebrate life, Preacher Powell started. I'd heard him say this 248 times. He never glossed over sadness or tragedy, but he always said, life is such a gift. Now he said, let us celebrate the gift that Florentine Snowburger was to her family, her community, and the world. From Aunt Goldie's purple armpit came a loud, snot-filled snore. Amen, said Homer Henland. Amen, said Mary. Shh, said Daddy. Aunt Goldie whispered into Peach's head. Declaration seethed next to me. What are we supposed to do with him after this? I shrugged, and she hissed. I'm not staying in this house and playing marbles with Peach Pit all afternoon. Shh, said Mr. Johnson. Preacher Powell was looking at us. I put my hands in my lap and paid attention. I willed Aunt Florentine to see me sitting there missing her. I smiled at Dismay, who was now in the place beside Aunt Florentine's casket. He perked up an ear at me and panted. Through the prayers, hymns, and stories that neighbors stood up to tell, Peach moaned every time the word death was used. He gave forth with a low, muffled "gah" all through the emotional remarks Daddy made about Aunt Florentine. Bruh. This guy. What is it, Yuki? Yo, greetings from Finland. Hi, Momotin. How's it going? What's life like in Finland? Because, I don't know. I'm thinking about Sweden right now because of IKEA Swedish meatballs. But what's in Finland? See, look at him. He's trying to tip the trash. He tipped it 5,000 times. I don't know why this guy wants so much attention. It's pretty chill and light, similar to Sweden. Nice. It's, is there a lot of Finns in Finland? Probably, I mean... Why else is it called Finland? Where do they get that name from? Man, I'm so thirsty, bro. Okay, let's continue reading since Yuki interrupted us. Are you into sports? No. I'm into reading and studying and walking. I like walking. He sounded like the little motor that putted us around Lake Jasper in Daddy's fishing boat. Daddy wiped at his eyes with the Snowburger's handkerchief and spoke over Peach and just kept going. Then something wonderful happened. As we talked and sang Great-Great-Aunt Florentine to heaven, a little bit of heaven opened up and came down to us. The rain stopped, the sky cleared, and the afternoon suddenly brimmed with sunlight. A sunbeam streamed through the big glass windows of the Serenity Suite and bathed Aunt Florentine's alabaster white casket in a golden light. It's a sign, whispered Aunt Goldie. Look, Peach. Peach snorted his snotty self upright, took one look at Aunt Florentine's casket, whooped like he'd been pinched to death, and dove into Aunt Goldie's armpits again. Preacher Powell had the last word. Life without end, amen, he said, and let there be sunshine. Folks laughed and Preacher Powell beamed because his joke had been appreciated. The family invites you to get in your cars and take part in the procession to the cemetery now, and then to return to Snowburgers for a hearty meal, where we will fellowship one with another. As people got to their feet, he added, take your galoshes, it's bound to be wet. Are you into sports? Hi. Yo, welcome back to the stream, Arrow. Why did the other stream end? Because my dad had to come in, and I don't like streaming while he's there, like, yeah. Like, he doesn't know that I stream. So, I mean, I could have kept reading, but I don't know. I just ended the stream so that when he left, I could continue. But yeah, welcome back. And what time is it for you? It's 5 p.m., right? Okay. Dismay trotted to me and I rubbed him all over. Good boy, I said. Declaration took 2 steps away from me and asked her daddy something I couldn't hear. He shook his head. She stalked away. As she passed me, she purposely bumped my shoulder with hers. I didn't have time to think about that, as we were soon surrounded by friends wishing us well. Someone even remarked that Peach had done so well, to which Aunt Goldie replied, oh yes, he has come a long way, hasn't he? He's quite the brave boy, just look at him. The brave boy who usually held on to Aunt Goldie for dear life, that is, until he needed to throw up into a flower arrangement, had branched out. He was plastered to dismay, grinning all over himself, sneezing with one hand on Dismay's back as Dismay let himself be patted and stroked by folks and led outside into the steamy sunshine. Peach went right with Dismay, and people even smiled and patted on Peach. Lorene and Jimmy had brought the hearse to the side of Snowburgers, just as they always did, and the pallbearers, Daddy Tidings and Mr. Johnson, and 3 more of our friends took Gregory Aunt Florentine and her casket through the pocket doors and the refrigerated workroom and out to the long back hearse for her last car trip on Earth. Folks were milling around on the big front porch, gathering their umbrellas, sidestepping puddles in the parking lot, heading for cars, getting ready to follow the hearse in a long, respectful line of cars. Tidings was in his glory in the parking lot, handing out numbers to each driver, gesturing with wide sweeps of his arms, getting everybody ready to line up. "It'll take forever to organize this crowd," Mama murmured from the porch. Next to her, Aunt Goldie nodded and wiped at her eyes with a Snowburger's handkerchief. "It's 5 o'clock," she said, "Florentine's favorite time of day." Mama hugged her, and Aunt Goldie let herself cry, which I was afraid would make Peach cry, and then I'd be stuck in the car with 2 criers on the way to the graveside service where there would be more crying. "I want to walk to the cemetery, Mama," I said, with a sudden inspiration. "Can I walk?" "By yourself?" Mama looked around. Declaration sat on the porch swing and pretended to ignore me. Peach was standing on the front walk with his face lifted to the sun. Now he watched me and Mama. "Yes," I said. Declaration stared at her shoes. "Can I come?" asked Peach. What did you say, sweet pea?" Aunt Goldie touched her fingers to her pearls. "I want to go," said Peach, "with Comfort." "Oh no," I said. "If you think Comfort," warmed Mama. Inside, I was shouting, No, it's not time yet. You said after the graveside service." But I stayed still and kept my mouth shut. "You're going to ride with me, Peach Pea," said Aunt Goldie. She blew her nose, but kept her eyes on Peach. "I want to go with Comfort," said Peach. Mama and Aunt Goldie exchanged looks. I squeezed my eyes shut and willed Mama and Aunt Goldie to decide that this was a bad idea. When I opened my eyes, Mama was smiling, a beauty queen smile at Peach. She hardly looked rumpled. "Do you think you'll be all right, Peach?" Peach nodded his head. "Yes'm. I want to go with Comfort." I didn't offer to take him, even though I could feel Mama's gaze on me. "I wonder if he could just walk over with you, Comfort," whispered Aunt Goldie, her eyes teeming with fresh tears. "It would mean so much to him. I'll be right behind you at the cemetery." I set my jaw. "Yes, ma'am," I said in my most rigid voice. Mama nodded approvingly, and Declaration smirked from the porch swing. "Declaration," called Mama, "would you like to walk with Comfort and Peach?" There was a long silent moment when I wondered if Declaration would dare ignore Mama. Then she bobbed off her swing so forcefully the chain dangled. She smiled a Kristen Tiffany smile at Mama and Aunt Goldie. "Sure," she said brightly. She walked off the porch and past Peach. "We'll meet you there." I frowned at her. Dismay dashed over to me and barked. He knew we were going somewhere without him. The lavender in his collar made him look especially beautiful. "You can come too, boy," I said. Dismay was officially off duty, although he always went to the graveside service. "Good," said Mama. "Take your time. We'll catch up." Dismay barked and ran in a circle. Peach whirled around and shouted the announcement to everyone. "I'm going with Comfort!" Folks held up a hand or clapped for him. His eyes shone with excitement. "Glory hallelujah," said Peach, smiling at me with every muscle in his bony body. "Glory hallelujah," I said. "Let's go." The walk to the cemetery took 100 years. I walked between Peach and Declaration, and Dismay ran ahead of us, circling back every so often to check on our progress and hurry us along. Declaration stalked all the way, while Peach darted across rural Route 2, back and forth, shouting at all the wonders he discovered along the roadside. "A caterpillar and a dandelion! Make a wish!" Peach was suddenly in love with the outdoors. My Sunday school shoes pinched my feet, and I'd forgotten how hot my funeral dress could be on a warm afternoon. I pulled my handkerchief out of my dress pocket and wiped at my face. My neck itched. Declaration wasn't talking, and Peach did nothing but talk. "Watch for cars, Peach," I said, irritated, even though I knew there would be almost no traffic. It was impossible to think with all his excitement. Stop running in the road. He came back to walk alongside me, where he took purposeful strides forward in his sky blue suit and polka dot red tie. He crackled with excitement. Look how high that horn is. I have a rock collection. Did you know I'm allergic to dogs? It's hot out here. For heaven's sake, said Declaration. Ignore him, I said. That's easy for you to say, Declaration snapped. You're just like him. Patter, 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 on and on about the stupidest things. I looked at her and my stomach hurt. Her face was flushed. Tiffany was right about you, Declaration stopped. What? Nothing. Forget it. Declaration stalked forward. Comfort. Peach was holding a sycamore ball in his hand. What's this? He gestured to the ground. Look how many there are. Nothing could dampen his enthusiasm. We turned off rural Route 21 to County Road 2435, which ran between the Snapfinger Cemetery and the Oak Grove. Ooh, listen to that sound, Peach said. His shoes crunched over the pebbles on the dirt road. It's like crunching cereal with your shoes. I gritted my teeth. Declaration walked faster. I can skip, said Peach, bolder by the minute. He skipped like a chicken in a jagged movement of legs and arms. Shut up, said Declaration. But Peach didn't hear her. Watch out, I said, grabbing Peach by the arm as he almost skipped into a damp puddle. Oh, sorry. I waited for him while he stopped completely, looked at the puddle, took two side steps, and then started walking forward again. Why did you do that? It's big, he said. The ocean is big, said Declaration, standing a little ahead of us with her arms crossed. A stiff breeze tugged at the hem of her dress. A bank of clouds had moved across the sun. Yep, said Peach happily. Disney came back to us and splashed through the puddle that Peach had just missed. Eee, said Peach, covering his face as water splashed onto his blue suit. I mopped at Peach with my handkerchief, then stuck it into my dress pocket. Peach looked through his fingers, and there was Disney, wagging his tail and panting at him. Peach hugged him. I just love this dog. Goody for you, said Declaration. I didn't know who to strangle first. The breeze had become a wind. It blew my straight as a stick hair into my face. I pushed it away as Peach cried, I bet I could climb a tree. The cemetery was on our left, up a little rise. Headstones dotted the green grass ahead of us. You've never climbed a tree in your life, I scoffed. Besides, it's gonna rain. Look at the storm coming towards us. It must be raining buckets in Lewin. How about this tree? Challenged Declaration. She was standing beside a gnarly oak and with knotholes that made it good for climbing. I'd climb it myself many a day. Stop it, I said. Peach looked uncertain, confused. Brother, the handkerchief is not gonna do anything. Wow, you're actually listening to the story? That's awesome, Guilty. Alright, this chapter and then the next one, and then we're gonna be done reading, inshallah. How about a mountain? Asked Declaration. She gestured to Listening Rock, winked at us through the trees in the oak grove. It's not a mountain, it's a rock, I said. And we're not climbing it. Leaves snapped in the breeze like little flags. Why not? Asked Declaration. We stopped walking. Peach stood close to me. Dismay had scampered ahead to the cemetery and on towards Great-Great-Aunt Florentine's gravesite. He knew what came next. I don't want to climb a mountain, said Peach. Who cares what you want, said Declaration. I made my decision. Declaration, go do what you want. I don't want you here anyway. Peach stared at us. Good, spit Declaration, because I don't want to be here. I had an invitation to go to Kristen's house this afternoon, and I had to tell her I was going to another Snowburger funeral. My mouth tasted sour, and my eyes stung with tears. Birds called, rain, rain, from the trees, the way they do before a downpour. The wind snatched at my dress. Peach edged close to me. He kept his eye on Declaration and didn't utter a peep. Go away, Declaration, I said. The words hitched in my throat and my heart pounded in my stomach. Go be with your friends. With pleasure, Declaration crowed. She had a wild look in her eyes. Come on, I said to Peach. I was shaking. Let's get under Aunt Florentine's tarp and stay dry. I stepped into the cemetery and away from my friend, who was not my friend. Peach was right with me. Declaration shouted after us, and her voice was full of fury. Go on! Go to the graveyard, where they bury people. Oh! Peach covered his ears with his hands. I turned to Declaration. She made her eyes into big round moons. Go to the graveyard, Peach, where they throw dirt over dead people and leave them there for the worms. Eee! Squealed Peach. We ran back to the dirt road as if the cemetery grass was on fire. Stop, Declaration! I followed Peach. Raindrops pattered to the orange dirt. Dismay was back, circling all three of us, panting and nervous. See, said Declaration. Even Dismay doesn't want to be there. Peach is a boy? Yeah. Of course I'm listening. Your streams are chill. Thank you. Why are they so harsh on Peach? I know, right? Like, he's so cute. Like, I would have had a blast going with that little kid. But, yeah. Declaration is the most annoying person in this whole book, bro. That's not true, I said. He hates storms. We're about to get rained on. Dismay licked one of Peach's elbows. Peach clutched Dismay's head and hugged him hard. He sneezed 3 times. A bubble of snot formed on his left nostril. It'll be fine, Peach, I said. You've been to the cemetery before. Has he ever, said Declaration. At Uncle Idio's graveside service, Peach had screamed at the sight of the hole that was to be Uncle Idio's grave. He had yelled, "No, no, no," so many times that Daddy had to pick him up and take him to the car and back to the house. Yes, let's all get under Aunt Florentine's tarp, Declaration said with a glee. We can look down into her grave. That's where she'll be, Peachy. Dead. Forever. Eee! Peach screamed. Let's take a look, Peach Pit, Declaration shouted over the wind. Come on, you don't want to get wet. Declaration made a grab for Peach's arm. I slapped her hand. What's the matter with you? I shouted. Peach curled himself into a ball on the dirt road and began to wail. I'd heard the wail I had heard the night before at Great Aunt Florentine's funeral. Declaration is an interesting name. I know, right? Out of the wind came a clap of thunder. Dismay yelped and ran for the oak grove. Come on, Peach, Declaration laughed like a maniac as she ran up the rise and into the cemetery towards shelter at Aunt Florentine's grave. Run! Why is she laughing? She's so weird. Locusts, songbirds, the wailing wind, Peach. The whole world was alive with noise and the mossy smell that came before a big rain. Thunder added to the chorus with a low, powerful roll. Dismay streaked up Purgatory Hill, his ears flat back against his head, the whites of his ears wild and terrified. Come on, boy. The whites of his ears? So this is Dismay, the dog. Seems like his ears are not so white. And this is Comfort. Come on, boy, I slapped my thighs and whistled. Dismay ran a circle around the wailing ball that was Peach, then ran back down the hill and into the grove. I yanked on Peach's blue suit collar. Move! Mama! He wailed, stretched his face up to the sky. Get up! It's gonna pour! I pulled him by the collar towards the cemetery and shelter. No, not up there! He wrenched himself away from me, spurted across the road, and tumbled down Purgatory Hill. I raced after him, and just as I reached him, he picked himself up and clung to a pine sapling like it was Aunt Goldie. The ground under us was so soft and wet that my feet were already soaking, right through the soles of my Sunday school shoes. I jerked at him over and over, trying to dislodge him from the tree. You moron, you idiot, you nincompoop. Then I let it go, which was a mistake. He ran from me, wild-eyed, into the grove towards Listening Rock. Not that way! Peach fell headlong into Snapfinger Creek, which was no longer a creek. It had become a lake. He came up coughing and choking. I ran in after him. The water covered my ankles. I grabbed Peach under my armpits and pulled. Get up! A sputtering Peach stumbled to his feet. It's cold, he sobbed, and my heart caught in my throat. The water that had covered my ankles was now to the middle of my calves. Get out, get out, I screamed. Snapfinger Creek was becoming an ocean. Peach's eyes were as brown as saucers. It's getting bigger, he screamed. The closest high place was Listening Rock. I pulled Peach toward it. Hurry! The water swallowed our steps behind us like it was chasing us. It was cold and muddy, full of sticks and leaves, tadpoles and crayfish. And a dog. Dismay, I screamed. He was half walking, half paddling. His eyes were intent on me. The lavender that Mama had woven around his collar stuck up like flowers on headstones in the cemetery, stiff and straight. Come on, boy. Water swelled around my knees. I grabbed hold of my skinny black walnut tree trunk and wrapped Peach's arms around it. He wailed to high heaven. Shut up, I screamed. Peach looked at me with his face dripping water and snot. The Listening Rock was close. The distance to cross was 4 large skips on a dry day, but water had begun a slow swirl around our legs, and I was afraid it would suck us under and bash us into the tree. We have to get from here to there, I said, pointing to Listening Rock. Now! The water lapped at Peach's waist at my thighs. Peach was utterly quiet. He blinked at me with enormous blue eyes. He wasn't going anywhere. I could see he was ready to give up, to slip away from me, from the world, right there in the grove. But then, a miracle happened. Peach looked beyond me and saw my dog. Suddenly, he was alive and full of feeling. Come on, Dismay, Peach yelled through his tears. The swirling water sucked Dismay around the tree and under the surface of the water. He bobbed up and paddled furiously towards us. He was almost within grabbing distance. Peach tugged on me and screamed, Get him, Comfort, get him! Dismay, I reached for him. Don't let go of me. Hang on to the tree. I clutched Peach's blue suit in my fist and lunged for Dismay. Come on, boy, come on. My words were lost in the wind. I reached so powerfully that I pulled Peach's jacket off. He shrieked. The current sucked me under and slammed me into Peach and the black walnut. My shoes popped off my feet. I felt Peach's body leave the tree. I struggled to my feet, gasping for air, holding the tree with one hand and pushed my hair out of my face with the other. Peach! Peach! I got him, Peach gurgled. His back was against the giant oak tree next to the black walnut. Now, just 2 large skips from Listening Rock. We could almost touch it. He was holding Dismay to his chest, or Dismay was pinning Peach to the tree. I couldn't tell. The trunk of the oak was so wide, it held Peach and Dismay comfortably to its bosom, and kept them momentarily from swirling downstream. Hi, bestie. Yo, Addison Rodrigo. Welcome to the stream. How's it going? We're reading the Each Little Bird That Sings, and we're like literally on chapter 20. I read 9 chapters today. So let's see how far we could go, honestly. I was planning to stop there, but I really want to get this book over with, because we have a lot of other books to read. Cool, okay, yeah. Dismay shivered and remained very still, as if he knew that to move meant being swept away, and to move meant Peach would be swept away too. Hold on, I yelled. The water was up to my waist. It was inches towards Peach's armpit. I made a mad plunge forward from the black walnut. For a moment, I had them both. Peach and I were face to face like 2 slices of bread, with Dismay between us, like tuna fish in a sandwich. I wrapped my arms around them, and then it was utterly, completely quiet. The drowned draft arrived, that eerie second before a big storm hits, just before the wind swoops through and brings in the hard rain. The air instantly cooled. Birds and locusts stopped singing. Dismay looked at me with the saddest dog eyes I had ever seen. We were wet nose to wet nose. It's okay, boy, I said. He gave my cheek a tiny lick a kiss. Then the roar of the rain filled my ears. We're moving, screamed Peach as the current began to sweep us around the edge of the oak. I looked past Peach's shoulder and ahead of us. If we swirled around the oak tree the way Dismay had swirled earlier, we'd be bashed into the rows of Sharon bushes that sprayed the bottom of Listening Rock. We'd be tangled in them and sucked under, unless... Grab the bushes, I yelled as we began to slide around the wide circle of the trunk. I can't, Peach cluttered harder at Dismay and squeezed his eyes shut. Yes, you can. Grab with your arms. Our bodies turned with the current as Peach's back scraped along the oak. He screamed, thunder boomed, and Dismay struggled out of our arms. Peach grabbed him by his lavender-laced collar. I grabbed Peach, and there we were, jammed together like logs on a river between 2 trees. Dismay, Peach screamed. His chin was barely above the water. I had no plan. My mind wouldn't work. Dismay's eyes rolled back in their sockets. Whoa. Peach was drowning him. Oh my god, no. Peach, we'd all drown soon. Let him go, I shouted. Peach clung to Dismay's collar. Water lapped at his lips. Let go, Peach, I screamed. The water reached Peach's nose. He squeezed his eyes shut. I reached for Dismay's collar. I pried at Peach's fingers as his head went underwater. And then I did it. I let my dog go. Oh! Whoa, this is actually such a scary book, because they're drowning at this point. Oh my god. So, should I stop here? Or... I think I'll keep going. I think I'll go to chapter 25. and then we could finish next stream. $206. Bro, this event is gonna traumatize these kids. I know, right? How this is a kid's book, bro. This is crazy. Alright, chapter 21. I'd develop a fear of water if this ever happened to me. For real. Immediately, Peach's head popped above the water and began moving again. Dismay! Peach gurgled as my dog swirled away from us and Peach took on a mouthful of water. As Peach gagged, Dismay banged into the rows of Sharon bushes and yelped, then bounced into the current and was swept away, tumbling under the water. Peach and I were right behind Dismay. I grabbed Peach by his polka dot tie and held on as we swung around in the current, banging into trees and each other, screaming like we were part of a carnival ride. All the way to the other side of the big oak where we slammed into the rows of Sharon bushes. While splashing over our heads. What? The water splashing over our heads, the current pulling us away and away. Grab on, I yelled. Peach grabbed the bushes for all he was worth and began to choke. Then I realized I was the one choking him. I was holding on to his tie so tightly, so I let go. We held the rows of Sharon branches in our own open arms, held them close to our chests while the cold black water swirled all around us, trying to tug us back into the current. Peach cried a small boy cry. I wanted to cry too. Just hold on, Peach, I shouted. Hold on, don't let go. Dismay, he cried. We've got to get up and out of this water, I shouted. Can you climb yourself into these bushes? No, yelled Peach. Try, I shouted. The branches were slick with rain, but they were sturdy and had knobby flowered handholds. The current sucked at me, and as I climbed inside the branches, working my way in little by little, the branches scraped and poked my feet through my socks, but I made myself keep on. And as I worked my body into the bushes, I pulled Peach after me. He helped. I was worried about both of us falling down inside the branches and into the water just below us, but the roses of Sharon held us up, and soon I found that if I reached my hand through these bushes, I could touch a listening rock on the other side. So I kept working my way through until I was up against the listening rock. I pressed my cheek to its wet, solid surface. Oh, how friendly it felt! I found a place low and level enough to slide onto out of the bushes. I'll go first, said to Peach. He nodded. His face was a crisscross of scratches, but he didn't complain. It's real slippery, I told Peach once I had worked my way onto listening rock. Just come slow. He followed me, slipping and sliding and trying over and over again. I wrapped one leg around a skinny scrub pine in front of me. It scraped the skin from the back of my knee as I hung onto Peach and pulled him up. We grunted, concentrated, and struggled together. The rain lessened. The sky lightened. And there we were, two explorers on Listening Rock in the aftermath of a terrible adventure. Peach's teeth clattered together and his lips were blue. Sit here, I said to him, motioning next to me. My Sunday school dress was torn in 3 places, and Peach's white shirt and blue suit pants were brown, heavy, and sticky with mud. He sat close to me. We were silent. Birds began to call again as the rain moved away from us, and a sliver of sun broke through the clouds and painted the woods with a deep golden glow. Where is everybody? Said Peach in a dazed voice. I don't know, I shivered. Why don't they come get us? Maybe they can't get here. This water. Where did they come from? I don't know. Is Snowburgers underwater? I don't know. Be quiet, Peach. I can't think. Dismay, said Peach, as if he were reading my thoughts. He started to cry. Hush, I said, my voice cracking. That won't help. He got sucked in, said Peach through his tears. Stop. We could have got sucked in. No, we didn't. Now stop. Peach stopped. The flooding had stopped too. The water was no longer rising. Peach slipped an arm under my arm and held my hand. I let him. It felt good to have a hand to hold, even if it belonged to Peach. My mind was fixed on Dismay, my dog. Where was he? I sent him my strongest thoughts. Be safe. Swim. Comfort? Peach was practically plastered to me. What? I'm scared. I let go of his hand and put my arm around his shoulders. They'll come get us. I didn't know if they would or not. Comfort? What? You saved my whole life, said Peach. No, I didn't. I think you did. If anybody saved you, it was Dismay. It was? Yes. I let him go, said Peach quietly. I shivered and fought back tears. Dismay's a good swimmer, I said. Where do you think he is, Comfort? Be quiet, Peach. He sniffed. When I die, Comfort, will you come to my funeral? Oh, this is so sad. Like, she's so mean to Peach, and he's just like a little boy. Yeah, my voice is actually getting like a little bit sore, so I'm gonna stop after this chapter. I let go of Peach's shoulders and mopped wet hair away from my face. What kind of question is that, Peach? Look, we're on this rock. We can go even higher if we need to. You're not about to die. I will die one day, he said. I looked him in the face, that old face again. He looked so solemn. I just will, he said. Today I almost died. This remark set him to coughing so long and hard I thought he might vomit, but he didn't. He carefully wiped at his running nose with his wet polka dot tie. His eyes were full of tears. Here, I fished into my pocket for my handkerchief, but my pocket was a mass of mud. Never mind. He asked me again, when I die, will you come to my funeral? You're exacerbating. Yes, yes, if you die before me, and you won't, I will come. I'll be there with bells on. I don't want you to wear bells, Comfort. I just want you to come. It's an expression, Peach. It means I'll be glad to come. I thought about it. Maybe glad isn't the word. Honored is the word that Daddy used. I'll be honored to have you there, Peach said. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. And if you die before me, said Peach in a thoughtful voice, can I have your bottle cap collection that Uncle Elisa will to you? For heaven's sake, Peach. Well, if you want to will it to someone else. You can have it, I said as fast as and finally as I could. Thank you, Comfort. I'm gonna will to you my camera. It is very precious to me. Uncle Ernesto willed it to me. I looked at Peach's earnest face. Thank you, Peach. We heard the low putt-putt of a motor. I knew that sound. It was the motor Daddy put on the back of our flat-bottom boat when we fished on Lake Jasper. Peach and I both began shouting as Daddy and Mr. Johnson appeared in the boat, dodging trees and debris and calling for us. Over here, I shouted, waving my arms. Over here, shouted Peach. Ahoy, yelled Daddy. We got him. The sound of great relief was in his voice. I was never so glad to see anybody in my life. I hadn't realized how tired I was until that moment. Every bone in my body was cold. Every muscle throbbed. Daddy idled the motor, and Mr. Johnson looped a long rope around some branches on the road of Sharon bushes so the boat would stay put while Daddy reached for Peach. Are you two in one piece? Daddy asked. Yes, sir, Peach answered for both of us. Is Snowburgers underwater? No, son, just the oak groves underwater. We've got us some flooding. Daddy handed off Peach to Mr. Johnson. It's a flood, said Peach, as if we were saying it's Christmas. Then he said, we thought you'd never find us. We'd be out here for hours. You've been gone less than an hour, said Daddy evenly. It's just now 6 o'clock. Daddy reached for me, and I came in his long arms, ready to hug him forever. Aw, Yuki. Bro, I didn't expect the story to get this. I know, right? Like, what is happening? Where did Declaration go? Where's Dismay? And is Dismay alive or dead? These are the 3 questions, like, we gotta have in our brains now. This Yuki is like Peach to me, as Peach is to Comfort. He squeezed me to him and kissed my forehead. Mr. Johnson wrapped a blanket around the shivering Peach. Declaration told us where to find you. Declaration, said Peach, looking at his hands. My stomach clenched. She was on high ground, said Mr. Johnson, but we couldn't get a car down the country road, so we had to go through Homer Heineman's cornfield on old Johnny Mercer's backhoe to get her. It's a soggy mess up there. He made room for me to sit next to him and wrapped a blanket around me too. The warmth soothed me. Comfort me, almost died. Peach's eyes were shining with the newfound surety of survival. You're far from dead, Daddy spoke in his best funeral director voice. Comfort saved my life. Peach's energy was fading. Tell them, Comfort. His eyes were taking on that exhausted, faraway look he'd had when he was clinging to the black walnut tree. Rescue first, said Daddy. This water is receding, and I want the boat out of the grove before the water is gone. Mr. Johnson retrieved the rope. Daddy reached for the handle of the motor to steer it away from a listening rock. He gave it a twist, and the engine sputtered to life. Declaration low-key just ditched them. I know, right? I mean, she did tell them at least where they were about. She didn't go with them. I hadn't said a word since we were rescued. I needed to say something, but I didn't know where to begin. I grabbed Daddy's arm, and he looked into my eyes. Daddy, I couldn't go on. Comfort? Daddy stopped with what he was doing to look at me. I blinked at him and tried to speak. He put on his big hand over my smaller one and looked at me in his eyes. Honey? Dismay, I said, and I burst into tears. Daddy folded his arms around me and I wept into his chest. So, Dismay actually died? Bro. Alright, so I think we're gonna stop here. We have 8 chapters left. I think in the next stream, I might finish this book. Because it's very readable, I think. I was gonna read 2 chapters a day, but wow, I'm surprised. I read so I ended up chapter 22, so I did from 11 to 21, so that was 10 chapters. That's crazy. Okay, when are you streaming next? I think after 8 p.m, like maybe 9 p.m, or later. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, take care, guys. See you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, and yeah, take care. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.